guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video. Today's video is featuring the end of summer fun release from Colorado Craft Company and Anita Duram. Super cute, just the little summer images, totally love them. But today we're actually going to be concentrating on this one. It's called Beauty and the Beach. You can see that it's just one image, couple of sentiments. This stamp set's $4.50. It's adorable. And I think that they always have one of these, just by the way, in these releases, there's always one like smaller stamp set. And I think that they often get overlooked because they're just the little guy. But the little guy can have a lot of impact if you can do it in a way, that really showcases it. And so that's what we're talking about today. So here, you guys know, I'm cheap. I'm a cheap chicken, self-admittedly, and I'm fine with it. So here I have like just an extra piece of masking paper that I had on my roll. So I stamped down my image. I've trimmed it down now to a little rectangle, and then I have stamped it again on the masking paper and then trimmed that off. That little piece of masking paper is what we're going to use for everything in this card. Everything in this card. Because I already had it and I'm not wasting it. Again, I go back to, I am a cheap chicken. I own it. I'm fine with it. So how do you make little stamps make a big impact? So when you know, like I have this cute little bunny, she's adorable with her little bag and her glasses and she looks sassy. You have to do it in a way that makes your card interesting without overshadowing your small stamp. And so I am going to do that a couple of different ways. I am going to do that by creating a lot of texture and an interesting background. So that way the card doesn't seem like it is lacking. But so I'm going to create a little mini scene here. You could also do this, without trimming it out on a separate panel. You could do it, on your actual card front. But I like to do it on a separate panel so I can pop it up because that's another way I can make the card interesting. So what you've seen me already do is just put in a little bit of a sky. Now I'm going to mask the sky and I'm going to go down here so I can mask an area off to be the water. This doesn't have to be perfect because of the technique that we're going to use. That surf line is going to be covered up by lots of texture, but in case you are a person who wants to not have to do all of the embossing texture that we're going to do, and you just want to create the scene, normally I would have ripped a piece of masking paper in half, and I'd have the positive and the negative. So you're going to see here in a minute, once we do the water, lighter, you want to be lighter towards the sand, darker towards the horizon line, just FYI for when you're putting down your color. But anyway, normally I would have those two pieces to mask it off. Because I used a piece that I already had, I'm going to have to get a little creative. But because we're going to do the texture with the surf, it doesn't really matter in my case. So just wanted to leave that little tidbit in. But yeah, so in order to make the little guys shine, there's some things you can do with like your background. And if you ever are like, oh, I really love that stamp. I really do. And I really do think she's totally adorable. If you are looking at whether or not like, okay, maybe I want to purchase it, maybe I don't, go look at the samples. You can see, especially with this one, the samples that are made on the website, almost everybody who used it did something really, really interesting with their background because it helps this little lady shine and make a full complete card. So here's how I got creative to mask off the water, and then I'm going to go in and do the sand. The sand is the same as the water. You want it to be lighter towards the front where it would be dry, and then darker towards the back where it would be wet, where that surf is coming in. But yeah, so this is funny. When I was doing this, I was talking to my girlfriend, Dawn, and I was like, all right, I got to go through, I got to, figure out a way to make this interesting. And she was like, well, could you make like sand with maybe some paste? And I was like, okay, that's an interesting idea. Like, let's play around with that and see. So I had white paste, I had gold paste, I had like a pearl paste. And so I was like doing, re-inkers to color them, and then mixing in embossing powder to get like the grit. Basically, I made, I don't know, 4 different colors of what looked like poop. Honestly, that's what happened. So we tried it. It didn't work. And that's okay. Like, sometimes you just got to experiment, but it did. It just looked like, so I told her, I was like, well, if you ever make a card where you need some poo-poo, you let me know. I'll give you the recipe for this, this paste that I just made. But anyway, we figured it out. So here I'm going in. This is the only little bit of coloring that I'm going to do. I chose to make her like a light grayish bunny, just as a neutral. And then I chose orange for the bag because orange is blues complement. So they're automatically going to look nice together. So that's just how I picked those. But you could certainly color them, you know. A hot pink would be super fun for summer, or a lime green would be super fun. There's really no right or wrong. That's just how I went about picking mine. Speaking of, we were talking about purchasing. It's free shipping days at Colorado Craft Company right now. There's two days of free shipping days, and today is the last free shipping day. So if you're interested in you know that you're going to purchase something, get your, or boy, whoever, ladies and gentlemen, get your free shipping. Because it's, I mean, who doesn't want to save money? You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so for the coloring on the bag, I just went in and followed the little lines that are there. With my darkest color, went in with my mid-tone, and then I just left a couple of little areas to fill in with my lightest color. And that was really all I did. Because like the masking that I did, you'll see here, I didn't cut out the little parts in between the bag and the bunny. And that's because I knew it was going to be part of my surf and I didn't have to worry about it. So now that the coloring is done, I'm going to put my mask back in place. And the reason I did the coloring first was because I wanted to make sure the embossing powder wasn't going to impede my coloring at all. And now we're going to get into the technique of making things just a little bit more interesting. First things first, I'm taking my little white paper pouncer and I'm taking just the edge of it into some Versamark ink and I'm pouncing all along that surf line. After that, I'm going to get this is white puff embossing powder. I'm using the Hero Arts one. I've always had really good luck with that one, but I know there's a couple of other brands out there as well. Once I get that on, I'm going to then go in with my just a dry paintbrush. You can use whatever size you have. I would recommend it around just because it gives you a more tapered edge. And then I'm just going to go in and put the embossing powder where I want it. Because that Versamark dries clear, you're not even going to know that it's there. So I don't have to worry about that. So I pushed it all in, closer to the edge of the beach. And then I'm going to go in with that paintbrush and I'm going to just kind of remove it from anywhere that I don't want it. Like right on top of my bunny mask. I'm just going to remove it on top of the glasses. I'm going to just remove it. So when I dump the embossing powder on, I then dump all that excess back into its container because remember, I'm cheap and I'm not wasting it. And then I'm going to put my copy paper back down. I'm going to remove any of the embossing powder that I don't want on there, and then I'll be able to then dump that back into the container as well. I do enjoy with this technique in particular leaving like little mounds of embossing powder so that you'll have some areas that are puffier than others. Like here, I'm not happy with how much embossing powder I took off. So I'm going to go back in and just put a little more on. And then in these little teeny tiny areas, I will put more, like I'll just sprinkle it back in there. But every time you can see I'm smoothing out the beach, I'm smoothing out the waves to make sure that I don't have any strays because these do puff up quite a bit. So it's not going to be just like a little piece of white embossing powder that nobody's going to notice. They're going to puff. That's what they're supposed to do. So if you have any that you don't want it will be pretty obvious. So just take your time and make sure your area is clean. At this point, just some of your embossing ink might not be as sticky as it was before. So I typically always heat from the back first. And then once it starts melting, I can bring my heat tool to the front without any fear of it blowing away. I did have some in the right corner that did kind of blow off because I didn't wait long enough for it to be melted. But that's okay. So now you'll see The surf is in, super textured, super cool. And now we're going to go in and do the sand. How are we going to do the sand, you ask? Well, Hero Arts actually has a sand embossing powder, believe it or not, and it is wicked cool. So there's a lot of different things mixed in here. There's a little bit of white, a little bit of gold, these larger brown pieces of embossing. And so you can use this, just like if you bought the die cut that matches this, you could just do this whole background without ever having to clean up your little area. I don't have the die cut, so I got to clean them off. It's no big deal. It just takes a little bit more time. So that's exactly what I'm doing. I put down my embossing powder all over the whole area, just like I did last time. Now remember, there's no mask in place this time. And that's because twofold. One, I wanted there to be some sand over her little feet. And second of all, I wanted to show you, even if you're not like, you don't have the dexterity to do fussy cutting, you can still do this. Because you just pounce it right over it and then just go in with your paintbrush and then just clean that area up. So you don't necessarily have to have a mask cut for it. So that's what I'm doing here. Going in, again, cleaning off the sunglasses, the bag, the body of the bunny. And then once I have that all cleaned off, I'm going to go in and I'm just going to create some texture. Like I'm just going to tap little areas and make little swooshies and things like that. Just to have higher and lower areas of sand and some points where just the paper is sticking through and it just has a couple little granules of embossing powder. And I love this. And I don't know why I've never used it before. This is really, truly the first time I've ever used it. The embossing powder, because it has those several little bits of different things in there, it really does look like sand. And like the little gold pieces look like the sand catching the sunlight. It's beautiful. It's a great embossing powder. And I will for sure, like obviously we're moving into fall now. Since we're in September, but definitely will come back to this for my summer cards in the future. So yeah, I'm just trying to show it to you here. Now this whole piece is completed. And normally I would do just like a white background for a scene card. But because this is a smaller thing, we're going to do something else to add. We don't want to take away. Remember, we don't want to distract from our focal point. We want to just complement it. So I chose some Mermaid Lagoon Distress Oxide because Distress inks don't stamp as well, but they are, basically the same color. So I've inked up my beach background and then I put my cardstock down. Here I wanted to show you, I put my cardstock down up too high. You can see it. There's going to be a portion that isn't stamped. I'm going to put my copy paper over top of it. I'm going to hold it in place with one hand and rub with the other so that way I can get a super good impression. And then I'm going to have this gap because sometimes it just happens like that. You know what I mean? It just does. So in order to fix my gap, I'm going to trim both sides of my card down by just 1/4 of an inch. And then I will use my card base as a white mat. And then that way my design still goes edge to edge. There's a way to overcome everything, y'all. Don't sweat it. It's just paper and you're still going to have a beautiful card. So this is what we're looking like right now. For the sentiment, I chose the Beauty and the Beach sentiment, honestly, because Beauty and the Beast is one of my favorite Disney movies. Like, I just think it's so, I don't know, it's like witty and cute. I like it. So I'm going to heat with my anti-static tool heat with my anti-static tool. That's what I'm saying. What are we talking about? I'm going to stamp with my no, I'm not going to do that either. What is happening? I'm going to treat it with my anti-static tool and then stamp it in white embossing ink. And then I'm going to use white detail embossing powder to emboss it. What's happening? I don't even know. This video is going off the rails, y'all. So anyway, that is what I'm doing with sentiment. And then we're going to go ahead and start putting the card together. So this is a little bit of a shorter video for me, but it's because it doesn't have as much coloring as a lot of my videos do. but that's okay. It's all right. Every once in a while we get a short one. It's cool. So I trim these down into little labels, and then I'm going to start building my card. I am using my glue press for that. This isn't something that we've talked a lot about. I've been using it in all my videos because I love it. But basically just a slight recap. I should do a video on it. I feel like other people did though, so that's why I don't want to just inundate you, but I have had people ask in my comments. Basically, it's a glue press. It does not clog as long as you seat it in the handle correctly, which is just straight up and down. It's got a little silicone pad it presses against, and it doesn't clog. It has a fine tip and an extra fine tip that you can use, and you barely have to pull the little trigger to get any glue out. It's brilliant. I love it. It's always linked below in my videos when I use it. So here, now I've popped this up on some foam tape because, again, that adds just another layer of interest. And then for the sentiment, I played around with it a little bit, trying to figure out what I wanted to do exactly. Ultimately, I did like it more at the bottom than I did at the top, just because I felt like I had like this huge expanse of sand. So I figured I'd just put them down offset, and then I would add some gemstones to kind of like the left and the right to fill in that area, which I did. And the gemstones I used are Milk Glass by Trinity Stamps. They have such great embellishments. So yeah, that's that. As far as life goes, it's been pretty busy around here lately. I have so many stories that I've been storing up. But it's a Christmas miracle that I have not like just sniffled my way through this entire video. I've had to pause it twice. Once because I had to sneeze, and once because I had a coughing fit, just because my allergies. I don't know what it is about fall, but yesterday and today they've been out of control. Peanut had to come home from school early on Friday because his were wild. I had my 40th birthday party. We'll talk about that. There's so much to talk about with that. Yesterday, and like 3 or 4 different people at the party were like totally sniffling because allergies were just crazy. So anyway, I added some shimmer to my water, and then some highlights to my sunglasses, and then that's it. That's the whole card. So I will be back soon with another video. Thank you guys so much for spending your time with me. I always appreciate you, and I will catch you on the next video.